Would you believe your child if she said she doesn't remember the night someone disappeared? Her daughter's friend stayed over one night. The next morning, she was missing, and the daughter couldn't remember what happened. Laura Price had worked the late shift again. It was almost 9 p.m. when she came home to the quiet little house on Willow Street, the kind of suburban street where the loudest noise at night was a barking dog or a sprinkler clicking in the distance. She kicked off her shoes, set down her hospital bag, and told herself she'd make it through one more week before her next day off. Her daughter Sophie was already waiting in the living room. 13 years old, shy, the kind of girl who'd rather draw in her sketchbook than talk on the phone. That night, Sophie had a small, hopeful smile. "Mom, can my friend Lily stay over? From my online art class?" Laura hesitated. She barely knew this kid. But Sophie had never asked for a sleepover before. A friend, finally. Something normal. That word had started to feel foreign in their lives lately. She said yes. A few minutes later, a silver sedan pulled up outside. A woman waved from the driver's seat but never came to the door. The passenger door opened and a thin girl stepped out. Long brown hair, backpack slung over one shoulder. "Lily." Laura waved. The woman in the car gave a small nod and drove off before Laura could say a word. Strange. But Laura let it go. Inside, the girls acted like they'd known each other forever. Pizza boxes, a blanket fort, the glow of a movie on TV. Laura watched them from the kitchen, smiling for the first time in days. She snapped a quick picture of them, 2 laughing faces half hidden under a blanket, and posted it to her private Instagram, just for family. Just a happy little moment. By midnight, she could still hear their muffled voices through the wall, whispering, giggling, the sound of a new friendship forming. Laura smiled to herself and drifted off, thinking, maybe things are finally getting better. The morning light came harsh and bright through the blinds. Laura woke to the smell of cold pizza. She checked the clock, 8:17 a.m. Her body ached from another night of broken sleep. She expected to hear the girls talking, maybe arguing over breakfast. But the house was quiet, too quiet. She walked down the hall. The guest bed was empty, blanket thrown aside, pillow on the floor. Lily's backpack was gone. Her jacket, too. Laura frowned. Maybe the girl's mom picked her up early? She called out, "Sophie?" Her daughter sat at the kitchen table, hair messy, eyes half open. A bowl of cereal sat untouched in front of her. Laura poured herself coffee and said, "When did Lily leave?" Sophie blinked slowly. "I don't know. I feel weird. My head's heavy." "What do you mean weird?" "I remember watching the movie. Then, I was on the couch. I think I fell asleep." "Did she say goodbye?" Laura's pulse picked up. "No, her stuff's gone." Sophie looked up, confused. "Gone?" Laura checked the front door, locked from the inside. The guest room window, closed. Where would a 13-year-old go at night without waking anyone? She tried the phone number Lily's mom had texted from the day before. Disconnected. Her stomach tightened. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe the girl left early, forgot to text. Still, something didn't feel right. Sophie looked pale, her pupils sluggish. Laura ran through the questions she asked patients in the ER. "What did you eat last night? Did you drink anything strange? Soda? Juice?" "Just the lemonade." "The one Lily brought?" Laura's hands started to tremble. No, I'm overthinking this." She checked her own phone. The photo she'd posted last night was still there. Both girls smiling. She tried to reverse search Lily's face online. No matches. That was odd. Every teenager had some kind of digital footprint these days. By now, Sophie was rubbing her temples. "Mom, my head's pounding." Laura considered taking her to the ER, but for what? A sleepover hangover? Still, something gnawed at her. The woman in the car, the disconnected number, the vanishing girl. At 11:42 a.m., 2 police cruisers turned onto Willow Street. The sound of tires crunching gravel broke the silence. Laura stepped outside, coffee mug in hand, pretending everything was fine. 2 officers approached, led by a man in a gray jacket. "Ma'am," he said, "I'm Detective Ruiz. We're looking for a missing girl, 13 years old. Lily Ward. Her phone's last GPS signal was from this address around 11:43 p.m. last night." Laura's voice caught. "She was here, but she left early, I think." I don't know when." Ruiz studied her carefully. "Can we come in?" Inside, they moved quietly, looking, noting details, snapping photos. Ruiz asked questions. "When did Lily arrive? Who dropped her off? Did she have any family?" Laura explained everything she could remember. The car, the woman who never got out, the pizza boxes, the laughter, the empty room this morning. When she mentioned the disconnected number, Ruiz nodded grimly. That number was registered to a prepaid burner phone, bought 3 days ago at a 7-Eleven about 10 miles from here. Paid in cash, Laura's mind spun. A burner phone? Who uses a burner for a kid's sleepover? At the station later that day, she sat across from the detective. The room smelled faintly of coffee and bleach. He slid a printout across the table, A picture of Lily, the same face from last night. Lily Ward, he said, has been missing since yesterday afternoon. She ran away from a foster home in the next county, told her caseworker she was meeting a friend but never came back. Laura stared at the picture. She was here. She was safe, Ruiz tapped his pen. You're sure she didn't leave during the night? She couldn't have. I lock up every night. I would have heard her. He paused. Your daughter said she felt dizzy, groggy? Yes, this morning she could barely keep her eyes open. Ruiz exchanged a look with another officer. We'll need to talk to her too. Laura's throat tightened. You think Sophie did something? No, Ruiz said carefully, but we have to consider all possibilities. Sometimes kids copy each other's behavior. Sometimes they get involved in things they don't understand. When Laura finally drove home, the house felt colder. Sophie was asleep on the couch, blanket pulled up to her chin. Laura watched her chest rise and fall, steady and fragile. What had really happened in this house last night? Who was the woman who dropped Lily off? Why was her phone untraceable? And most of all, why couldn't Sophie remember anything after that movie ended? Laura closed the blinds, locked the door again, and sat in the dark living room with only the sound of her own heartbeat echoing in her ears. Something was very wrong, and she knew this was only the beginning. The police cars were still parked outside by the time Laura pulled herself together. She made another pot of coffee just to keep her hands busy. The kitchen felt smaller somehow, tighter, like the walls were leaning in. Detective Ruiz sat across from her at the table, calm and professional. He took notes while another officer checked the windows and doors again. Laura tried to sound steady. She wasn't just some stranger. They met in an online art class. I saw their drawings. I saw the messages. Ruiz nodded, flipping through his pad. Can you show us those messages? Laura unlocked her phone, opened Sophie's chat app. The thread was full of sketches, inside jokes, pictures of art projects. Nothing strange, nothing dangerous, until Ruiz looked closer. Notice the timestamps, he said. Every message for the last 2 weeks came from the same number. The same burner number that arranged the sleepover. Laura stared at the screen. You mean, that wasn't Lily's mom? Ruiz closed his notebook. We're not sure who it was yet. By early afternoon, the uniformed officers had left, but the silence stayed behind. Sophie had woken up groggy, wrapped in her blanket like she didn't want to face daylight. Laura made her toast and sat across from her. Honey, tell me what you remember. Anything. Sophie rubbed her temples. We were watching the movie. Then Lily said she wanted something sweet. She poured us both lemonade. After that, she shook her head. I got so sleepy, Mom. I couldn't keep my eyes open. I thought it was just from staying up late. Laura's pulse kicked up. Did she drink hers too? I think so. Maybe. Did she say anything before you fell asleep? Sophie hesitated. Something like, don't freak out when you wake up. I thought it was a joke. Laura felt the air leave her chest. That wasn't a joke. By noon, Detective Ruiz was back, this time with a partner. He stood in the doorway, hat in hand. We found Lily's caseworker, he said. She confirmed Lily ran away yesterday afternoon. Told her she was going to a friend's house in Oak Ridge. That's here, right? Laura nodded. He continued. Her phone's last GPS signal came from this address at 11:43 p.m. We've also confirmed the text number belongs to a prepaid burner. Bought at a 7-Eleven 2 towns over. Cash only. Laura gripped the edge of the counter. So someone planned this. Someone helped her. Ruiz's face didn't change. It looks that way. Then what does that mean? She came here for a reason? Ruiz glanced towards Sophie, who sat quietly at the table, staring at her cereal again. Maybe. Kids run away for all sorts of reasons. Some to escape. Some to find something. Laura followed his eyes and felt her stomach turn. Are you suggesting she came here for Sophie? Ruiz didn't answer. That evening, Laura was called to the station for a formal statement. She didn't want to leave Sophie alone, but Ruiz insisted. This is just procedure, he said. We're trying to account for every minute of last night. At the precinct, the fluorescent lights hummed overhead. The walls were lined with corkboards and missing person flyers. Laura recognized one of them. Lily's face stared back at her from the board. Same photo the detective had shown her earlier. She sat down, exhausted. What happens now? Ruiz slid a folder toward her. We've checked with the foster agency. Lily's been in the system her whole life. She's had 6 placements in 13 years. Her caseworker said she was bright, artistic. But lately, she'd been fixated on something. Something about her real family. Laura frowned. She told Sophie her mom died years ago. Ruiz nodded. She told a lot of people a lot of things. We're still sorting through what's true. He flipped another page. Did you or your daughter ever meet Lily in person before last night? No, just the art class online. It was supervised. Some kind of group Zoom thing. Ruiz tapped his pen. And this was the first time you ever spoke with her mother? Laura nodded. Only through text. I never heard her voice. Never met her in person. The detective leaned back. Mrs. Price, what if I told you there's no record of any parent or guardian matching that number? Laura's throat tightened. What are you saying? That whoever arranged this sleepover wasn't Lily's foster mother. Laura drove home after dark, headlights slicing through the fog that had settled over the neighborhood. The closer she got to her house, the heavier the air felt. She parked in the driveway and just sat there, gripping the steering wheel. Her reflection stared back at her from the windshield. Tired eyes, cracked lipstick, the faint shadow of fear she'd been ignoring all day. Inside, Sophie was curled up on the couch watching TV. She looked up. Mom, are they mad at me? Laura knelt beside her. No, sweetheart. They just need to find Lily. They think she might be in trouble. Sophie nodded, but something about her expression was off, distant. Like she was half awake. Laura brushed her hair back and noticed a faint red mark on her arm. What's this? Sophie blinked. I don't know. Maybe a bug bite. But it wasn't. It looked more like a tiny bruise from where a needle might have pressed. Too small, too perfect. Laura's stomach turned. No, it can't be. That night, Laura barely slept. Every sound made her sit up. The refrigerator hum, the wind brushing the windows, even the soft creak of the house settling. She kept replaying the last 24 hours in her head. The woman in the car. The burner phone. Sophie's sudden drowsiness. What if the lemonade wasn't just lemonade? What if Lily had planned this from the start? By morning, the police had already confirmed Lily's foster home was in another county, over 30 miles away. No one there had seen or heard from her. Ruiz called just after 9 a.m. We're pulling phone data and local security footage. You might want to check your house cameras if you've got any. Laura laughed bitterly. I'm a nurse detective, not a millionaire. The only camera I have is my phone, Ruiz sighed. Understood. We'll keep you updated. She hung up and set the phone on the counter, hands shaking again. Sophie came into the kitchen, hair unbrushed, face pale. Mom, she whispered. I had a dream last night. Laura looked up. About what? I saw her, Lily, standing by the window. She said she was sorry. Laura's skin went cold. That wasn't a dream. Sophie's voice trembled. What if she comes back? Laura looked toward the window. Sunlight spilling across the empty guest bed visible through the doorway. What if she already had? The next morning, Laura woke to a knock at the door. Detective Ruiz stood there again, this time with a warrant. His tone was polite, but his eyes were tired. Mrs. Price, we need to take a closer look at the house. Just routine. Laura stepped aside. Do what you have to do. Sophie sat on the couch clutching her blanket, watching them move from room to room. They dusted glasses for fingerprints, checked the back door, bagged the lemonade bottle, and collected the half-empty cups from the sink. Laura watched in silence. Each new evidence bag felt like an accusation. Then Ruiz called from Sophie's room. Mrs. Price, can you come here a second? On Sophie's desk sat her iPad. The detective turned the screen toward her. The browser history glowed under the harsh morning light. Laura's chest tightened. The searches were innocent at first. How to draw eyes? Color palettes for portraits. Then the timestamp jumped to 10:15 p.m. How to help a friend who's being abused. Can foster kids choose to live with friends? Laura whispered. That's Sophie's handwriting, her spelling. Ruiz nodded. These are from her account. Then he scrolled further. At 11:34 p.m., another search appeared. How much Benadryl makes you sleep? Laura felt her pulse slam in her ears. What? Sophie, who had been standing behind her, took a step back. I didn't type that. I didn't. Ruiz looked between them. You were both home, right? Nobody else used this device? Sophie shook her head, tears welling up. Lily borrowed it. She said she needed to look up a reference photo for her art project. Laura's knees weakened. Detective, you're not saying my daughter... Ruiz lifted a hand. I'm not saying anything yet, but this raises questions. After the officers left, Laura sat on the edge of her bed, phone in hand, staring at the ceiling. The quiet of the house was unbearable. She wanted to believe Sophie. But the evidence, the searches, the drowsiness, the missing girl, all pointed in the wrong direction. Still, deep down, something didn't fit. Sophie wasn't capable of this. She didn't even like taking cold medicine. So who searched that? And why? That afternoon, Laura made a decision. She called in a favor at the hospital and brought Sophie in for a quick checkup. The pediatric resident ran basic labs. Nothing alarming at first. Then the blood work came back. Traces of diphenhydramine, Benadryl, a sedating dose. Enough to knock out a small teenager for hours. Laura stared at the printout. You're sure? The resident nodded. She would have been drowsy, groggy, maybe disoriented when she woke up. So Sophie hadn't done the drugging. She'd been drugged. Back home, Laura locked the front door and sat down with Sophie again. The truth needed air. I know what they found in your blood, she said quietly. Sophie looked up, terrified. Am I in trouble? No, Laura said, voice shaking. But you didn't fall asleep that night, Sophie. You were drugged. The color drained from Sophie's face. By who? Lily! Sophie's hands trembled. Why would she do that? Laura didn't have an answer. Not yet. She opened her laptop and logged into Sophie's messages again, this time searching deeper. Past the art chats and school talk, buried between old sketches and emojis were private DMs from Lily, messages that no adult had ever seen. The tone shifted over the weeks. It started light. You're so talented. Then slowly turned dark. You're so lucky you have a real mom. And then, do you ever feel like you're living someone else's life? Laura scrolled further, heart pounding. The last message was sent at 11:58 p.m., the night of the sleepover. I'm sorry I had to do this. You'll understand when you wake up. I'm taking back what's mine. Laura's hands shook so badly she almost dropped the laptop. What did that mean? Taking back what's mine? She opened the small lockbox in her closet where she kept important papers. Sophie's birth certificate. The hospital bracelet from the day she was born. A USB drive with scanned photos. The box was there. But it was lighter than usual. She lifted the lid. Empty. The documents? Gone. Laura's mind raced. Did Lily come for those papers? Did she plan this whole thing? The sleepover, the drugging, the message to her mother? But why? Her phone buzzed. Ruiz again. Mrs. Price, the lab results are in. There was Benadryl in the drinks. Small doses. We also found fingerprints on the glass. 2 sets. One belongs to Sophie. The other to Lily, Laura swallowed. So Lily made the drinks. That's what it looks like. And there's something else. We traced her foster records. She's been in the system since birth. Abandoned at St. Catherine's Hospital in March 2012. Laura froze. St. Catherine's? Yes, why? Her voice barely came out. That's where Sophie was born. There was silence on the line. Then Ruiz said quietly, We'll dig deeper. After hanging up, Laura sat alone at the table, staring at Sophie's baby photos on the wall. Sophie, in her tiny pink blanket, the bracelet around her wrist, the one that was now missing. The photo looked innocent. But suddenly it didn't feel real anymore. A sick thought crept in. What if Lily wasn't running away at all? What if she was running home? That night, Laura couldn't stop pacing. Every sound of the house made her flinch. She looked at Sophie asleep on the couch again, breathing softly, unaware of the storm around her. If Lily had stolen those documents, there had to be a reason, and that reason was buried somewhere in their past. Laura made a decision. If the police couldn't find the truth fast enough, she would. She picked up her phone, scrolled through her contacts, and dialed a number she hadn't called in years. A private investigator she once met during a hospital fraud case. Miles Chen, said the voice on the other end. Miles, it's Laura Price. I need your help. It's about a missing girl. And maybe the wrong birth certificate. Miles Chen didn't waste time. By evening, he was sitting at Laura's kitchen table, laptop open, a half-empty mug of coffee beside him. He was in his 40s, calm, unshakable, the kind of man who had seen too many broken systems and too many missing people. Laura briefed him quickly. The sleepover, the drugging, the missing papers, the hospital connection. Miles listened without interrupting, his fingers tapping across the keyboard. When she finished, he said, You said Sophie was born at St. Catherine's? Yes, March 14th, 2012. He typed for a while, frowning. And Lily was abandoned there the same week, also in March 2012. He turned the screen toward her. There it was, a partial record from the foster care database. Ward Lily, female, DOB 314-2012. Intake location, St. Catherine's Hospital. Laura stared. The same day. Miles nodded. It's not proof of anything yet, but that's more than coincidence. They spent the next hour tracing what little documentation still existed. Every trail led back to dead links, sealed court records, and missing paper files. Typical, Miles muttered. 13 years in the foster system and half her identity still guesswork. Laura leaned back, exhausted. So what was Lily trying to find? Why come here? He scrolled through another page, then stopped. This might explain it. On the screen was a short court summary. Petitioner Lily Ward Minor. Representation, Attorney Karen Delgado, pro bono. Petition to unseal birth records. Denied pending case review. Miles said she had a lawyer helping her. Delgado works with a family rights nonprofit. Usually handles kids trying to find biological relatives. Laura rubbed her eyes. So Lily tried the legal way first. Looks like it, he said. Then the court denied her. After that, she disappeared, Laura whispered, and came to us. Miles kept digging. Here's something else. Before filing that petition, she took an at-home ancestry DNA test, probably from one of those online kits. Laura frowned. How would she afford that? Gifted, Miles said. From a former foster sibling, according to a note in Delgado's file. That's how she got hooked on the idea that something was wrong. He clicked a tab and read aloud. DNA results indicate close genetic match. Estimated relation, first cousin or half-sibling, with individual Sophie Price, located in same county. Laura froze. That's impossible. Miles met her eyes. It's not impossible. But it doesn't mean what she thought it meant. What do you mean? He explained carefully. Those tests can't pinpoint exact relationships in young kids, especially when the sample pool is small. It could mean Sophie's mom shares some ancestry with Lily's biological family. Distant, maybe through the same region or donor. But to a 13-year-old who's been bounced around homes her whole life, it probably looked like proof. So she thought Sophie was her sister? Or her, Miles said quietly. Maybe she thought your daughter was living the life that was meant to be hers. Laura's breath caught. That's what her message meant. Taking back what's mine. She believed she'd been switched. Miles nodded slowly. And the way she planned it, the burner phone, the fake mom, the sleepover, it wasn't random. It was her investigation. She was gathering proof. Proof of what? That she existed, Miles said. That someone somewhere made a mistake. By midnight, Miles was still digging. His fingers flew across the keyboard until he stopped suddenly. There's something else. You're not going to like it, Laura braced herself. Go on. He turned the laptop around. A local newspaper headline filled the screen. St. Catherine's Hospital records room. Fire. Dozens of birth certificates lost. The date. April 3rd, 2012. Her stomach dropped. The article was short. A few paragraphs buried under community news. A small electrical fire in the records department destroyed patient files, including birth documentation from late February through March. Hospital officials blamed faulty wiring and delayed inspections. Reconstruction of destroyed files is ongoing, Miles said softly. That's 3 weeks after both girls were born, Laura whispered. So their records were destroyed. Or mixed up, Miles added. When they reconstructed birth certificates later, someone could have transcribed the wrong details. Different parents, same date, same hospital, no originals to verify. She stared at the laptop screen. The words swam in her vision. How many other babies were affected? He scrolled to the bottom. It says 40 newborns. Most reissued certificates were verified with family documentation. And the rest? Unverified, he said. Temporary files created from intake logs. Laura gripped the edge of the table. So Lily was one of them, Miles nodded. A Jane Doe infant with no traceable parent. Laura stood up, pacing. You think they were switched? He hesitated. I think a clerical error at the wrong moment can ruin 2 lives. And this one has all the ingredients. Chaos, paperwork, missing mothers, a fire. It's possible someone labeled one baby wrong. She pressed her hands to her face. My God. Miles leaned forward. Listen, before you spiral, this doesn't prove anything about Sophie. You have memories. You have photos. You have your late mother-in-law's custody paperwork, which Lily stole, Laura said sharply. Then that's what she was after, he said. She wasn't trying to hurt your daughter. She was trying to find evidence that she wasn't who the system told her she was. Laura sat back down, exhausted. So where do we go from here? Miles closed the laptop. We find someone who was there that night. The hospital staff. Nurses, clerks, anyone who remembers the chaos. He paused, then added, There's one name that keeps showing up on the archived logs. Eleanor Moss, retired head nurse. She handled NICU admissions that week. Can you find her? I already did, he said. Lives 2 hours away, small town near the state line. She's 81, but she still writes medical newsletters. We'll go tomorrow. That night, Laura sat alone in her living room again. The house was quiet except for the ticking clock. Sophie was asleep upstairs, finally resting peacefully. Laura stared at the photo on the wall, the same one from her private Instagram post. 2 girls laughing under a blanket fort. How could one of them have planned all this? How could a child carry that kind of pain and that kind of determination? She whispered to the empty room. What did they do to you, Lily? The next morning, her phone buzzed. A text from Detective Ruiz. We got something. Lily's attorney confirmed contact. Sending over her notes. Laura opened the attached document. It was a scanned case memo from attorney Karen Delgado. The handwriting was firm and clinical. Client received DNA ancestry results showing a partial match to Sophie Price, local minor. Believes hospital error caused identity confusion. Advised client to pursue legal channels. Client showing growing fixation and emotional distress over perceived loss of rightful life. Laura read it twice. Then she read it again. Lily hadn't wanted revenge. She wanted her life back. The one she thought had been stolen before she could even speak. The drive to Pine Hollow took 2 hours. The road wound through flat farmland and narrow hills, sunlight flickering between the trees. Laura hadn't said much the entire way. She sat in the passenger seat, arms crossed, staring out the window. Miles drove quietly, glancing at her now and then. You sure you're ready for this? Laura nodded, eyes still on the passing road. I just want the truth, whatever it is. Eleanor Moss lived in a small white house at the edge of town. The yard was full of hydrangeas, overgrown but still beautiful. the kind of place that felt suspended in time. The old nurse greeted them at the door, thin and gray-haired, with a gentle voice that had spent a lifetime soothing crying newborns. "Come in," she said. "You said this was about St. Catherine's?" Miles explained who they were, careful not to overwhelm her. When he mentioned March 2012, she frowned, then motioned for them to sit at her dining table. "That was the worst month of my career," she said. "We had overcrowding in the maternity ward, a dozen unregistered births, and 2 teenage mothers who came in within hours of each other. Both alone. Both refused to give names. I never forgot them." Laura leaned forward. "Do you remember the babies?" Eleanor smiled sadly. "You don't forget the little ones you worried over." She stood up and shuffled to a cabinet, pulling out a small box. Inside was a notebook. Old, faded, but neatly labeled NICU Notes 2012. "I kept personal records," she said. "After the fire, everything official was gone, but I couldn't bring myself to throw these away." She flipped to a page dated March 14th, 2012. Her finger traced 2 entries. Baby A, born 2:47 a.m. Baby B, born 6:15 a.m. Baby A, she read softly. Mother appeared very young, maybe 15. No prenatal care. Healthy girl. Birthmark on her left shoulder blade, shaped almost like angel wings. I wrote it down because it was unique. Laura's chest tightened. "And baby B?" Eleanor turned the page. Older mother. 17 or so. Slight complications, but healthy baby. No marks or identifiers. That one was placed with a relative. The grandmother arrived by afternoon. She said her daughter had been missing for weeks. Miles looked at Laura. "That's your mother-in-law." Eleanor nodded. "Yes, I remember her name, Price. She was determined. Said she'd been praying for her daughter to come home. And when she heard there was an unidentified baby matching her daughter's due date, she came straight in with family photos and hospital records from her daughter's previous checkups. I vouched for her with child services." Laura's throat closed. "So she wasn't lying," Eleanor sighed. "No, the paperwork was messy, but everything seemed legitimate. Then, 3 weeks later, the records room burned, and all those files went with it. After that, it was just chaos. Babies were being reissued IDs from memory," Laura whispered. "And Lily? She was baby A," Eleanor said softly. "Transferred to county custody that morning." The file said Ward L, for lack of a surname. Laura stared at the notebook, the tiny, careful handwriting, the lines that had accidentally rewritten 2 lives. Miles closed the notebook carefully. "So there was never a switch?" Eleanor shook her head. "No, but there was loss. Those babies were caught in the middle of a system on fire." Laura swallowed hard. "You said baby A had a birthmark. What if that mark still exists?" Eleanor nodded slowly. "If she still got it, that's your proof." They drove back in silence. Laura's mind ran in circles. Sophie had no birthmark. She'd seen every inch of her child's skin. But Lily? She didn't want to believe it. But part of her already knew. That night, the phone rang. "Detective Ruiz, Mrs. Price, we have movement." "We traced Lily's location." Laura sat up. "Where?" "She broke into the county records office last night. Left a notarized statement on the clerk's desk. Says her name is Sophie Price, born March 14th, 2012 at St. Catherine's. She claims identity theft." Laura's voice shook. "She left a note?" Ruiz continued. "She also left a USB drive. Contained scans of your daughter's birth certificate and hospital bracelet. She took them from your house. We found her fingerprints on both." Laura's knees went weak. "Where is she now?" "We don't know. But the letter suggests she's looking for proof. Old records, anything that confirms her claim. We're circulating her description." After the call, Laura stood in the dark kitchen, gripping the counter. Sophie came downstairs, sleepy-eyed. "Mom, what's wrong?" Laura forced a smile. "Nothing, sweetheart. Go back to bed." But inside, everything was breaking. She went to the lockbox again. Still empty. The papers. The bracelet. The USB drive. All gone. She whispered to herself, "You didn't come to hurt her. You came to find yourself." The next morning, Ruiz showed up again. He placed a file on the table. "Before you panic, we need to talk about this," he said. Inside were photocopies of Lily's foster files, the incomplete records, the burned paperwork, the endless transfers. He pointed to the section marked Identity Pending. Lily's case was flagged since infancy. No verified birth certificate. She was legally unidentifiable for years. Laura stared at the papers. "So she's been a ghost her whole life." Ruiz nodded. "Pretty much. Now imagine finding out there's a girl your age with the same birthday, born in the same hospital, living the life you think was stolen from you. That's a dangerous mix for a teenager who's been through what she's been through." Laura's eyes filled. She didn't want revenge. She wanted her name. Ruiz closed the folder. "We're searching every hospital archive and off-site record. If there's anything left from that fire, that's where she'll go." Laura froze. The retired nurse, Eleanor Moss, Mentioned she donated old notebooks and files to the hospital's storage facility years ago. Ruiz frowned. Then that's our next step. That night, Laura couldn't rest. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Lily's pale face, her shaking hands, her eyes full of confusion and anger. What if she was out there alone, searching through dusty boxes, convinced she was someone else? Laura got up, grabbed her keys, and whispered to herself, I'm finding her before something happens. The storage facility sat at the far edge of the old hospital grounds, a squat concrete building with rusted doors and a faded sign that still read, St. Catherine's Records, Off-Site Archive. It was almost midnight. The security lights buzzed faintly, casting long shadows across the gravel lot. Laura parked her car and stepped out, flashlight in hand. Her heart thudded so hard she could feel it in her throat. The front lock was already broken. She pushed the door open slowly. The air smelled of damp paper and dust. Rows of boxes stretched into the dark like forgotten graves. Somewhere in that silence she heard movement, a faint shuffle, a breath. Lily? No answer. She moved deeper into the room, light sweeping over old file boxes labeled NICU 2012, maternity logs, archived cases. Then she saw her. Lily sat on the floor near the back wall, a box open in front of her. Her hair hung loose, her face streaked with tears and dust. Papers surrounded her like fallen leaves. She looked up as Laura approached, eyes red and hollow. Don't call the police, please. Laura lowered the flashlight. I'm not here to call anyone. I just want to talk. Lily shook her head. You don't understand. Then help me, Laura said softly. Make me understand. Lily's voice cracked as she spoke. All my life I've been nobody. A ward of the state. That's what the W stands for in my name. Ward, L, like a number, not a person. 7 homes, 7 families that didn't want me. Then that DNA test? It said I had a match. Sophie Price. I thought it was a mistake. Or maybe the truth finally found me. She picked up a stack of old papers, hands trembling. They lied to me. They told me I was abandoned. But what if I was taken? What if she... She stopped herself. Laura knelt down beside her. You think Sophie's life was supposed to be yours? Lily nodded, tears spilling down her face. She has a mother, a home, a birthday, a name. I have nothing. Just files that say unknown. When I saw her picture online, she even looks like me. Laura's voice was steady but kind. I know you feel cheated, Lily, but this isn't her fault. And it's not yours either. She doesn't deserve... Lily started, then broke down mid-sentence. I just wanted to know who I am. That's all I ever wanted. Laura took a breath. Then let's find out together. They searched through the boxes side by side. The flashlight beam moved across stacks of folders, faded carbon copies, smudged ink. Hours seemed to pass, though it might have been minutes. Finally, Lily opened one marked NICU Logs, March 2012. Inside, sealed in a plastic sleeve, was a single ledger page, handwritten, labeled E. Moss. Lily handed it to Laura, her hands shaking. Laura unfolded it carefully. The page was yellowed but legible. Baby A, 2:47 a.m., female, healthy. Distinctive mark, angel wing birthmark on left shoulder blade. Registered as Ward L. Baby B, 6:15 a.m., female, healthy, no distinguishing marks. Grandmother Eleanor Price arrived 4 p.m. Custody granted under emergency protocol. Registered as Price S. Laura's throat tightened. That's you, she said softly. Baby A and Baby B? You were both born the same night. But you weren't switched. Lily blinked, confused. How can you be sure? Laura pulled up a photo on her phone. One of Sophie's old pediatric checkups. Sophie doesn't have a birthmark. Never did. Lily's voice was barely a whisper. But She hesitated, then turned her shoulder toward the light. There it was, a faint brown mark shaped like wings on her left shoulder blade. Laura's breath caught. The birthmark. Lily stared at it like she was seeing it for the first time. Her lip trembled. So, I was never her. No, Laura said gently. You were always you. The system just forgot to tell you that. Lily broke down, sobbing. The weight of 13 years poured out of her in waves. They left me in that system like garbage. No name, no family. I thought, if I found proof, I could be someone again. Laura pulled her into an embrace. You are someone. You always were. And you don't have to be alone anymore. For a long time, neither of them spoke. Just the sound of breathing and the soft rustle of paper as the flashlight flickered. Finally, Laura said, Come on, let's go home. By morning, they were back in Willow Street. Detective Ruiz was waiting in his car, relief washing over his face when he saw them. No handcuffs. No interrogation. Just quiet understanding. Lily turned over the stolen documents. Sophie's birth certificate, bracelet, and the USB drive. I'm sorry, she said quietly. Ruiz nodded. You were trying to find the truth. That's not a crime I can blame you for. He promised to work with the foster agency and Attorney Delgado to fix Lily's records. Laura stood beside her, protective in a way she hadn't expected. Sophie ran down the front steps and froze when she saw Lily. Neither girl moved for a moment. Then Sophie whispered, "You found her." Laura nodded. "We both did." Lily looked down. "I'm sorry for everything. I didn't mean to hurt you." Sophie hesitated, then stepped forward and hugged her. "You didn't. You just scared me." Laura's eyes burned as she watched them. Two girls the same age, born hours apart, connected by a broken system and a single night that changed everything. Weeks passed. Lawyers got involved. Court papers were filed. Attorney Delgado worked with Eleanor's recovered notes to officially restore Lily's birth identity. DNA tests confirmed what they already knew. The girls weren't related by blood. But the connection between them didn't need paperwork. Lily began staying with Laura and Sophie temporarily, under a foster-to-adopt arrangement. She started therapy, went back to school, began sketching again. Sometimes at night, Laura would pass their room and hear laughter. Real, carefree laughter. The kind she hadn't heard in her house for a long time. It made her stop every time. One evening, Laura sat with Lily on the porch. The air was cool, quiet except for the hum of crickets. Lily asked softly, "Why are you helping me?" Laura smiled faintly. "Because someone should have a long time ago." Lily looked down. "I'm scared it'll all disappear again." "It won't," Laura said. "You've got a home now. Papers, records, everything official. But more than that, you've got people." Lily nodded slowly, a small smile tugging at her lips. Inside, Sophie was setting the table for dinner. 3 plates this time. For the first time in weeks, the house didn't feel haunted. It felt full. Laura leaned back in her chair, watching the 2 girls through the window. "You're home," she whispered, and for once it was true. 3 months passed. Spring settled gently over the Virginia suburbs, softening everything that had once felt tense and gray. The house on Willow Street finally sounded like a home again. There was laughter at breakfast, music drifting from Sophie's room, and the quiet scratch of pencils as Lily drew at the kitchen table. Life wasn't perfect, but it was steady, predictable, safe. Laura had gone back to her shifts at the ER. Sophie was thriving in school again, more confident, more talkative. And Lily, still in therapy, still healing, was starting to believe in tomorrow. She was learning what it felt like to belong. On a Thursday morning, Laura opened the front door and saw a manila envelope lying on the step. No return address, no stamp. Just her name, written in shaky cursive. She brought it inside, sat at the kitchen table, and tore it open carefully. Inside was a single folded page and a faded photocopy of a hospital form. At the top, stamped in blue ink, it read, "St. Catherine's NICU, March 2012 admissions." Her pulse slowed. The page listed 6 infant entries. Next to 4 of them, written in red pen, were the words, "Identity status, unresolved." A small sticky note clung to the corner. The handwriting was faint but familiar. "I kept records on all of them. They deserve to know their names. The others are still out there, Laura. Still looking. E.M. Eleanor Moss." Laura read it twice, then again. Her hands trembled as she set the paper down. It wasn't fear she felt this time. It was something quieter. A heavy sadness. A deep gratitude. And underneath it, a sense of duty. She looked around the house. The breakfast dishes still sat in the sink. Sophie's backpack leaned by the wall. Lily's sketchbook lay open on the table, half finished. The drawing showed 3 figures. A woman standing between 2 girls, all 3 holding hands. Laura smiled, the kind of smile that carries tears behind it. That night, they had dinner together. Sophie complained about Lily burning the toast. Lily argued it was Sophie's fault for leaving the pan too long. And then they both laughed. Loud, unguarded laughter that filled every corner of the house. Laura just listened. She didn't correct them. She didn't interrupt. She let the sound wash over her, because this was what peace sounded like. Later, after the dishes were done and the house was quiet, she sat by the window. The envelope lay on her lap, edges bent, paper soft from handling. She didn't open it again. She didn't need to. She knew what it meant. Somewhere out there, 4 more names still waited to be found. Children who never got the chance these girls did. Maybe Eleanor had sent the letter as a reminder, not to reopen the wound, but to make sure it didn't disappear beneath the scars. Laura looked toward the living room. Sophie had fallen asleep on the couch. Lily was curled up beside her, both of them breathing in sync. 2 girls who had once been strangers, now family, bound not by blood but by truth, by survival, by love. 13 years ago, the world had nearly lost them both to fire and paperwork. But tonight they were safe. They were found. Laura whispered softly to herself, "You're home now." And for the first time in years, she believed it. The envelope stayed on the table for a while. Then one day she slipped it into a drawer with the family papers, not to hide it, but to protect it. It was proof that not every story ends neatly. But some end right. Even when records burn and truth hides in ashes, there will always be someone willing to dig it back out. And sometimes, that's enough. Lily Ward wasn't missing anymore. She was home,